Overdrive, Mail It In Friday. Jim Taddy, Dave Feschuk with you from the Toronto Star. Mail It In Fridays is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. BP is serving fish bowls and ice cold pints on the patio all summer long, so grab your sunscreen. Let's have ourselves a weekend. Oh, yes, guy, the Boston Pizza patio is calling you. Calling you, Dave.
Sounds like a call I might answer.
Yeah. Few pints.
I'm not going to flush that call.
No, that's right. Not going to ignore that call.
No.
Ryan Reeves, by the way, has done his media and has told everybody that he mentioned to Brad Treliving at the end of the season, no longer a fit in Toronto, given everything that transpired by being put on waivers. So he didn't like that. And we heard his goal earlier in the year, wants to play 1,000 games and full speed with that. And he's appreciative that Mr. Treliving moved him out.
Well, that's a fair assessment by Mr. Reeves, and I think a good move by Brad Treliving to find him a new place to play, acquire a potentially playable piece in return, and sort out the and improve the cap situation marginally along the way.
Yeah. So the Jays finishing off their pre-All-Star run, visiting the Oakland A's in Sacramento. Chris Colabello is here, former Blue Jay. Chris, welcome. How are you today?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. We had Joey Bats on earlier in the week, and he was comparing this year's team to the 2015 version, which you were on. Would you do that too?
Yeah, I'm going to text him and tell him, first of all, that I feel honored that I would be on the radio the same week as him. You know, obviously, Joey Bats, legend. So I'm going to send him that text when this gets done. But yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. And it's funny, I did, one of the shows last week or before the Yankee series, and I was around the team when they were here in Boston, and I was talking to Schneid and talking to Bo and a lot of the staff, and I think the team's very seasoned, and obviously like George has bounced back well, and having him and his presence fit in, and then having some younger guys that are kind of like really taking on more responsibility. Yeah, I think they're a good team. I mean, you hate to make comparisons to previous teams, but because I think that puts a lot of unnecessary stress or pressure on anyone like that they don't deserve. But certainly, like, they have the makings of the opportunity of doing something special here.
Well, there's been a lot of talk, Chris, about how this run has been fueled by contributions from a lot of different guys, right? It's not like the Yankees where Aaron Judge does so much of the heavy lifting. They don't have a player of that nature. Maybe nobody in the American League does. But it's really been a collective effort, and there's a chemistry that you can sort of feel. George Springer's talked about it being like a group of brothers in that clubhouse. I mean, in your experience, how much does that stuff matter? Just the closeness of a group and the feeling that everybody's picking each other up when they need it.
It matters more than anything else, certainly more than talent. I've reflected on that 2015 team just a bunch, and obviously that's my experience, so I can speak to that. But I've been on really good teams, and like every one of them had that, right? Like whether it be in indie ball or in high school or in professional baseball, like it's so important because you just spend so much time together, and really, it takes a group recognition to understand when one person's not quite at their best or, dealing with some stuff. Like it's a collective effort to kind of make up that 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever it is that they can't contribute. So, yeah, it's important. And I think, personally, just from being around them, like I spent all of BP with the guys, and it was great to catch up with DeMarlo and Scott Weberg, the strength coach, and, all the guys that I still know. And you could tell, like, they've gone through some tribulations over the last few years. Expectations were high, and you just probably had a bunch of guys that, for one reason or another weren't ready for it, but now that they're kind of, more seasoned. And I think specifically to Vladdy and to Bo and, even George dealing with the injuries and things like that. And it's really, really important for teams to have that because it's what gets you through the tough times, right? And it's what allows you to run off streaks of 9, 10 in a row, whatever it is. And those are the big things that you need to really flip the season on its head. I'm watching it happen here in Boston. You got to have a good run to position yourself, to then play 500 baseball when things aren't going well.
There's some great contributions from young ball players. In a lot of sports, if you make an early splash, it might take a year or two for the opposition to figure you out. With 162 games, that can be done in one season. So going in after we get through the All-Star break and into the stretch run, what do those kids have to not be concerned about, but maybe adjust to keep it going?
Well, the funny thing is I think if you have pretty good, veteran presence, that you just become a contributor, right? As a young guy, and you don't need to worry too much about your own personal stuff when you're much more concerned about the team winning, right? And I think that was a reflection of that 2015 team. Is you had guys like myself and Ryan Goins and Kevin Pillar and Devin Travis that, Osuna, Sanchez, Stroman, we didn't have a lot of time in the big leagues, even though I was, I don't know, a decade older than all of them or whatever it was. But, when you can take that younger core group of guys and get them focused on winning as opposed to their own personal success, then it becomes very, very easy. That's just the hard thing to do when you're young in the big leagues. And I was talking to somebody with Boston about this stuff the other day. How do you get young players to not worry about themselves, right? Because it's hard. It's hard to be in the big leagues. It's hard to get media scrutiny and attention. And, when you go 2 for 20, you're stressing out and worried about getting sent down or moved or whatever it is. And but when you can get young guys to really focus on the team, then it changes the dynamic. So I'm not necessarily worried about the Bargers and Clements and of the world that they're in a good position, and you can see that they're having fun. Even the the pop-up thing happened the other day, and I saw that, and Clement and Vladdy had their laughing moment on the field, so it was really cool. And when the older guys are promoting that, then it makes it significantly easier.
So, Chris, you're a Boston area guy. The Jays obviously trying to win the American League East for the first time since you were on the team in 2015. When you look at the Red Sox, you look at the Yankees and the Rays, who do you think poses the biggest threat to the Blue Jays in their pursuit of that division crown?
It's funny, the Rays, everybody wants to write them off every year because they keep changing personnel, and you keep looking up and down the roster and you're going, I don't know how they do it. But, Tampa's here in town right now, and Tampa's doing it through really, really good starting pitching, right? They've had 5 guys as starters and they've stayed healthy on the mound. So, I want to say that there are cracks in that armor, but it's hard to say that because they keep being in contention. The Yankees are the Yankees, right? As they're known in Boston as the evil empire. So they're gonna be a threat no matter what. But ultimately, and I'm not saying this as a homer because I'm a homer to Toronto at this point. That I'm a Blue Jay through and through, but I think Boston is really coming together at the right time. The Devers trade was controversial, but I'm watching them play quite a bit, and they're going to get healthy here soon with Bregman coming back, and they just look like a team that's kind of figuring out how to win. Now, granted, they had the Nationals and the Rockies here in town, but they're still Major League Baseball games, right? And you got to win them. So it'll be really interesting. I think the East is going to be super tight and generally the best division in baseball. But if I was a betting man, I would say probably Boston and the Yankees. But too many times have I counted out the Rays, and then they show up late in October, and you go, how'd they get here? So it should be fun, though. It'll be really competitive. So that's the good part.
So, with Boston trading Devers, trading their best player, and they still find the legs and are competitive. We have that problem with the hockey team. Best player left and trying to sort of fill in the blanks, if you will. How does that even happen, that you actually get better?
Yeah, well, it was different, right? The Devers situation, if you look at it, and we can reflect back to that chemistry thing we talked about, right? I certainly don't think Rafi is a bad kid by any stretch of the imagination, but if you look at, his personality, right? He's the analogy I'm going to use is he'd be a great Robin, right, to a Batman. Rafi is still a young kid. He doesn't embody, I think of, you guys mentioned Jose, and I'll bring up Edwin and guys like Tulo. They were just steadfast, right? They were just leaders. They were the guys that you weren't going to break them, right? Every day they were going to just keep showing up and doing their job. where Rafi is a little bit more volatile as a personality, not to mention the fact that he was the DH, right? Like, and then they had the whole position controversy and all that stuff. So I think a lot of that had to do with the reason why they moved him. And I think they saw a path to a more cohesive group. And I feel like that's what's happening. Only time will really tell. But yeah, that's how it happens, I think. And, it's just a matter of, the personality fitting in with the group at hand.
Hey, Chris, you've been around a lot of great home run hitters. That 2015 team that you were on had some incredible power hitters, and Joey Bats and Edwin and on down the line, Josh